For half a century, we've been told to speak properly, to bury our accent in polished English, to leave our mother tongue in the market, at home, and not in the classroom. We should not use our mother tongue in the classroom. And little by little, we began to forget our mother tongue. We began to forget our language. We obeyed. But every obedience has a cost. Every silence builds a grave. We built a grave for our mother tongue and abandoned it, as they said, in the marketplace. Yet, on cultural days, these schools still find a way to introduce cultural language and indigenous language, and they force us to speak this indigenous language, even if it means just reciting a few words in our indigenous language, whereas we are meant to speak properly. Now a quiet war is breaking out, not over land, not over oil, but over language itself. A war between our indigenous language and the English language. A war between our indigenous language and Mandarin and other foreign languages. A war between our indigenous language and French. What led to this war? In September of 2025, the federal government of Nigeria didn't just adjust the curriculum, it touched the very roots of who we are. They called it a press release, but the words that came from the minister's speech and document that was circulated to schools in various states in Nigeria landed like thunder. The Federal Ministry of Education has announced a major review of the national curriculum designated to reduce subject overload, promote skill acquisition and development, and align Nigerian education with global best practices. Language studies have been streamlined to offer only Hausa, Igbo, and Yoruba. So most Nigerians, it was just another reform. After all, there is always a reform with every new administration that comes in. But for the Eka, the Ikwere, and the Okwani, this is more than just a reform. For the ones who have spent decades insisting we are not Igbo, this was no policy to laugh with. They had spent years denying their reflection in the mirror. We are Eka, we are not Igbo. We are Ikwere, we are not Igbo. No, we are Okwani, we are not Igbo. No, we are Enuani, we are distinct, we are not Igbo. No, we are Odiani, we are not Igbo. These were the types of denials you will see from people. No, we are Oba, we are not Igbo. No, we may sound like Igbo, our words are similar with Igbo, but we are not Igbo. But their language continues to tell another story, even unto this day. Linguistically, these dialects I mentioned share the Igbo roots, separated only by pride and politics. For some, they have failed to distinguish between their political identity and their cultural identity. This unique reform didn't come with drums or slogans. It came with chalk and lesson plans. Now there is a backlash on social media because some are thinking this is exclusion. They ask, what about minority languages like Eka, like Enuani, like Ndoki, like Ikwere, like Oba? Others call this strategy. At least now, our children wouldn't grow up mute in their own country, only expressing themselves in a foreign language, learning to be like others, denying to be themselves. Some say no, you cannot flatten 500 different dialects and tongues into one, or just 3. Yes, we can. You can't also teach 500 dialects either, but you can start with 3 pillars and protect the rest. While we learn our Igbo Izugbe in classrooms, I learned Igbo Izugbe in my secondary schools. I attended Anglican Grammar School, Ubunuku. I learned Igbo Izugbe. I even remember the name of my teacher, Mrs. Kans. I learned Igbo Izugbe in my first year at the Federal University of Technology, Owerri. It's IGB 108 and IGB 110. I learned Igbo, and I even made A's. As a Delta person, I made A's. I am from the Igbo people in Delta states, and I was able to study Igbo Izugbe in school at the university, and I scored A's. The name of my teacher there, Professor Ben Ibokwe. So I still remember the names. We call him Mazi Ben Ibokwe. You know, we Igbos prefer that Mazi. Mazi Ben Ibokwe was my teacher. So I studied Igbo up to the university. I did not study Obolo dialect of the Igbo language. What I studied was Igbo Izugbe, and that is what has been reintroduced into schools. If a child can understand that Igbo Izugbe, it will be easy for him to understand his own dialect. Let us not just speak English, speak French, speak Mandarin, speak Chinese, and denigrate our own indigenous language. It is not done anywhere in the world. It got to a stage where it wasn't just about language anymore. It was about power, about who gets to define identity and the people or the policy. It was becoming so crazy that people who are sub-dialects in a language will reject being part of that overall language. You speak a dialect of the Igbo language and you come out openly to say you are not Igbo. In the end of all this, the loudest voices wouldn't be adults at all. It will be children who are reclaiming the sound and dialect and language we were too proud or ashamed to keep. Once upon a time, we were punished for speaking Igbo language in classes, but now it's a compulsory subject. You will either choose to study Yoruba, Hausa, or Igbo. What does this mean for the Bini person? It means a Bini man can now start learning Yoruba, which is their parent language, and some parts of Edo State will start learning Igbo. What does this mean for the Ikwere man and the Oba people? They will simply choose Igbo. Like I, a Delta person, chose Igbo in my university days. I chose Igbo ahead of French. I chose Igbo ahead of Hausa. I chose Igbo ahead of Yoruba because that is the language that resonates with my own language. What does this mean for the Bini people? What does this mean for you, an Enuani person who has been denying your Igbo identity? I hope when you are finally told to pick the languages that you comprehend, you will speak Igbo and you will pick Igbo. There's no way you will pick Hausa or Yoruba because you understand the Igbo language. Which languages are you familiar with that you speak or understand? You usually pick Igbo. But when they ask you what is your identity, you deny being Igbo. This opportunity offered by the federal government to teach this language in classes will instill confidence in our people that they are Igbo language speakers. What does this tell us? It teaches us that words are like roots. You can cut the tree, but the ground will still remember the roots. This reform, whether born out of bureaucracy or belief, has done something extraordinary. It has forced a country to look back at its buried face. And for the Igbo people, Ika, Ikwere, Okwani, Nsukka, Ngwa, every part of Igbo land, it whispers something. If your dialect still speaks Igbo, were you ever truly separate? Were you ever different? Was there a time you were never Igbo? Language isn't just grammar, it's a declaration. And this generation is declaring that identity is not shame. When a child from Port Harcourt greets in Igbo, when a Bini boy learns Yoruba proverbs, when a young girl in Kaduna sings in Hausa language, the nation begins to sound like itself again. When a young Igbo boy proudly speaks Igbo language wherever he finds himself, the nation begins to look more like itself than trying to fit in to others. The government thought it was just a writing curriculum. What it truly rewrote was memory and history. What was once the language of shame has now become a language of pride. And across the South, the tongue that once denied their mother have started to call her mother again in her own language. Asụsụ bụ ndụ. Asụsụ kwa eji amaribe mmadụ si pu. Ekene bụ nwa mmadụ. Maka na adị wee fo n'ọnwa ozugwu ịsụ asụsụ amari wee bụ isi buni. Maka na nye onye erike osi. Gbaa ni mbọ unu na-asụ asụsụ Igbo. Ka anyị na-akwado asụsụ Igbo ka ọ na-aga n'ifu maka na onye dokwame onweri. Bụ ekpu ụnọ ọ da-akpọ ọfịa mana aka jikwa m ọfịa ome ụnọ. Daalụnị. If you enjoyed watching this beautiful video, drop your comment in the comment section and let us know what you think about this government policy that imposes on schools to only teach these three languages, Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba, it means the Benin man must now learn to speak the Igbo language. And when asked during the time you're filling a form, which languages do you speak? Someone will gladly pick Igbo language. So when you are later asked, what is your identity? It won't be difficult for you to say, I am Igbo, I am Yoruba, or I am Hausa. You are first Igbo before you are identified as Enuani, before you are identified as Iseluku or Ogwashi or Ubuluku, as the case may be. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please share this video massively to your audience. Let us use it to educate our people. Thank you and do have a very pleasant day.